Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and this is another just bonus one, really, because for people not in the know, people who only come here to watch the videos, not really aware of what we do as a comic book store, in the UK, we get everything through Diamond UK as it is, and due to a whole bunch of problems in distribution and shipping and all that, the company they use has basically got massive staff shortages, can't keep up with demand, and our comics are arriving tomorrow. There's things I can say about this, but not here to get overly political on this one. Instead, I'm going to do, like I say, a bonus review of Adventure Zone. This is volume 1 of 4, and the reason we've got it in is one of my regular mail order customers ordered number 4. It's got delayed a little bit, so he was messaging me a lot, and I kept thinking, this is going to be something good. This guy's messaged me like 18 times, but not quite. But he's asked me about it a lot, so it was a lot of chasing. When it finally came in, I was like, I'm going to order the rest of them, because it does look kind of cool, and a few weeks later they all arrived. So I have literally volumes 1 through 4 to read, so I thought, yes, let's read number 1. Let's see what this is. And a little bit of background first. This is based on a podcast, which is a dude and his 3 sons playing tabletop role-playing. Some kind of fantasy game, probably D&D inspired, looking at the fact that you do races and classes and specializations and all that kind of thing, but they're not going to put it in the D&D world in their comic book. They're going to change enough things that it feels unique, and that's perfectly fine. Don't let Wizards of the Coast or whoever come and take your dollar. And because of that, it's kind of hard not to compare it to any kind of Critical Role thing. So we're probably going to be looking more along that than most other things. To start with, I'm going to talk about the artwork. It is kind of cartoony. Not in a particularly bad way, but literally any page I open up, you're going to see character designs where it's a little bit more simple than detailed. There's some quite nice use of color and page layouts, even like lighting when you get the gelatinous cube turn up. And this kind of works perfectly for the style of it, because the style is the important thing. Although I will make one odd point about the artwork. Started reading it, and you've got like 3 main characters. What's be a bit of a large human warrior, dwarven cleric, and an elf wizard. The dwarf and the human, both definitely blokes, which kind of makes sense. You've got a guy and sons playing it, but the elf seems androgynous, and I can't remember when reading it, other than generically referred to in a masculine kind of way, as in, hey, you guys, when talking to a group which included the elf. I can't remember if they ever got gendered pronouns at all. Even some of the fan art in the back leaves it as androgynous, and I kind of like the fact that I'm assuming that's how it was played, and the artwork actually shows that very effectively. It doesn't need to be done in any kind of obvious way. There's nobody drawing attention to it. You've got to imagine that in the fantasy world they're in, stuff like this just happens and is accepted. Wouldn't that be a wonderful world to live in? But the story is kind of big and huge and brash and over the top. And fits very, very well in what I consider to be an RPG style plot. You have characters start reasonably close to level 1, which means the fighter is doing all the heavy lifting to start with. Cleric and magic user doing low level healing and low level distraction spells. And as the book carries on, there's not necessarily a power shift yet, so I'm guessing probably about level 5, 3 to 5, which means they're getting closer to equal footing, learning spells and specialities, and the fighter is getting better at fighting, but at a certain point, he's going to be overtaken by magic users. Cool. That, again, perfectly accurate look at role-playing, and it makes great story arc as well. And the story, although starting small, has, again, it was big and brash, in a way that makes sense for a role-playing game as well. Because adventurers don't just go on adventure for the sake of it. There's usually always something big at the end. There's a big bad boss fight, or a reveal that there is more going on to it. And all that is in there. Everything about it is just brilliant, really. What makes it better for me than stuff like Critical Role, I think, is the choice of medium. Now, don't get me wrong, it started as a podcast. I probably wouldn't be too worried about listening to a podcast, because I'm listening to a podcast of people playing a role-playing game, or if I'm watching a YouTube video of people playing a role-playing game. Because I'm a tabletop RPer myself, I just would rather be playing the game. If I'm going to take like a couple of hours out of my evening, I'd rather just hang out with my friends and roleplay than watch other people do it. But doing it as a comic book, that is a very different experience. It's a different way of engaging with the subject matter. You actually get artwork and you get fight scenes played out, so they come across as a little bit more vital. Than combat in role-playing games can be quite tedious. To say it's usually the most exciting that would happen in a story, In a role-playing game, it can be 2 hours of people rolling dice and describing hit locations, moving to get advantages of cover and flanking and attacks of opportunity. And it's not the most exciting thing about role-playing. Comic books kind of take away that, well, what weapon are you using? Do you have a speciality in it? Your opponent is X race, or you have Y amity towards it, and all this kind of. Just get rid of that and just have a fight. It works really, really well. Also, it really captures the humor of what is a role-playing game. They do not allow themselves to take it that seriously, and I think that is a big selling point. Don't get me wrong, I think that Critical Role has done wonderful things. The whole Mighty Nine Exandria thing has brought role-playing to a lot more people than it usually would have done. The success of it as a YouTube channel clearly speaks for itself, but not everyone who role-plays has the same reason to do it. And these guys are clearly just having a laugh at the same time. And they're taking the Michael out of not only role-playing conventions, but also fantasy conventions as well. And I think, unfortunately, that might make it a little bit harder to penetrate for new readers. People who just want a fantasy story might be better served with something like Die or Rat Queens or the Critical Role stuff or the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. This is aimed very, very specifically at a certain type of person who enjoys tabletop role-playing with their mates and having a laugh and probably having a beer or two or whatever while they're doing it. And at the end of the game, just be like, that was awesome. Let's do this again next week. Because the social aspect of it is one of the fun things about role-playing. Yes, you get to hang around with people and solve problems together and do interactive community theatre, all the various things that you can say about role-playing that sound good on CV. But I myself role-play because I want to hang out with my friends and have a laugh. And it's really, really nice to see that aspect of the horror pinned down with absolute precision. Genuinely cool. That's it for me today. I'm hoping we're going to get a delivery tomorrow now. So you'll get a new Comic Book Day video then, and hopefully some more reviews throughout the week and the weekend. But until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye. Alexa.